Throughout the long history of Jews, it never took much to incite people and mobs to demonize, hate, rape, mutilate, and murder Jews. The list of what Jews have been blamed for and what they are being blamed for at present is long and demonic. It is not easy existing as a tiny minority in a hostile, often ruthless, and viciously cruel world. Jews are the world's oldest scapegoat and target of blame. Some of the reasons given for raping, mutilating, murdering, and massacring Jews in the present times are that their one small country is a settler colonialist state, even though hundreds of millions of people, if not billions, live on land stolen from indigenous populations. It is only the Jew in Israel that is accused of being non-indigenous and fair game for rape, murder, mutilation, and massacre. Even though many countries in the world originated as settler colonialist states in which countless non-native peoples live on stolen lands to this day, it is only the Jews of Israel that are accused of being settler colonialists that are fair game for rape, murder, mutilation, massacre. Most of the people demanding the destruction of Israel and extermination and genocide of its Jewish population, or at best, the expulsion of its Jewish population, are living in countries that were stolen from the indigenous people and remains stolen lands to this day. You never see any of them leaving their comfortable lives to return the lands to the original indigenous people. This includes, but is not limited to, the majority non-native populations of Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, and much more. This includes not only lands taken from native peoples by conquest, but also the many lands taken from native peoples in the violent conquest by the Ottoman Empire and other empires. Non-native peoples includes people of color, not just white people. The world is full of non-native peoples of all races, ethnicities, and religions living on lands that were stolen from the indigenous people. The anti-Israel crowd living on lands taken by conquest, settlers, and colonialism accuse Israel, even though it is based on untruths, for doing what they themselves are doing, living on lands stolen from indigenous populations. It is over 75 years that Israel has existed as a UN-recognized nation. Many generations of Israelis have been born on the land of Israel. Most Israelis and their descendants originated from the Middle East and North Africa, where many were ethnically cleansed and forced to flee for their lives to Israel. The continued nonsense about Israel being a white European colonial state completely ignores, out of racism and hatred for Jews, the majority population of Israel that are brown-skinned people from countries throughout the Middle East and North Africa, including Yemen, Iraq, Morocco, Algeria, Syria, Libya, Egypt, Lebanon, Tunisia, and elsewhere, including the land of Israel itself, where they found that only in Israel are they no longer persecuted just for being Jews. Long before Israel became a state, there were always Jews living in British-controlled Palestine, and before the Ottoman Empire controlled Palestine. Jews have lived continuously throughout the Middle East and North Africa for thousands of years. Jews lived many centuries ago in what is now Saudi Arabia before they were driven out, with some of the Jewish tribes on the Arabian Peninsula having been slaughtered and enslaved. The indigenous, settler, colonialist nonsense to justify raping, murdering, mutilating, massacring Jews is evil, to put it mildly. Most Jews were driven out from Arab-majority lands and forced to flee to Israel. A greater number, more Jews, were driven from Arab-majority lands and forced to flee to Israel than the number of Arabs, now called Palestinian, that fled from the new state of Israel in 1948, when Israel was attacked by multiple Arab armies, including Arabs inside of Israel itself, that were hell-bent on completely destroying the newfound state and raping and murdering its Jewish population. The history of massacres against Jews in pre-Israel Palestine and throughout Arab-majority lands throughout the Middle East and North Africa is long, brutal, and bloody. Just because it is not as horrific as the life of Jews in Christian-majority Europe that culminated in a Holocaust does not mean Jews were treated well. Many of the anti-Israel crowd purposely ignore the history of persecution against Jews that are from the Middle East and North Africa. They only want reasons to demonize Jews and Israelis in order to continue the long history of persecution against Jews. It is ironic that what is now considered the left is one of the most reactionary forces on the planet, fully embracing and supporting Hamas and Islamic Jihad, Jew hatred, and their October 7th murders, beheadings, burning alive, raping, mutilating, kidnapping, torturing, desecration, and defilement of murdered people, and more. Hamas and Islamic Jihad have called, and their supporters have called for many more horrific atrocities, reasons given in these terrible times for raping, slaughtering, gang raping, mutilating, torturing, beheading, burning alive, kidnapping, and other atrocities include the demented excuses and justifications that the Jews of Israel are too white, that they are European, that they are invaders, that they are colonizers, that they are settlers, which even if it were true, gives no one the right to gang rape women, to rape women and girls, to cut off women's breasts, to kidnap babies, children, defenseless people, to burn people alive, to burn, to behead, to mutilate, to torture, to shoot women raped in the genitals, to desecrate and defile the bodies of the murdered, and all the other atrocities committed by Islamic Jihad and Hamas on October 7th, 2023.